This one is hard to top, friends. This one stars Stranger Things' David Harbour as Red, and is a reboot of the Hellboy franchise. While some critics are totally panning it, Harbour's performance has been getting some pretty decent praise. Whether or not you feel the same way about the film as the internet does, some of you might be scratching your heads concerning what went down in the movie, and what the ending means for the future of the series. So we're here today to break it down for you, and explain that ending and the post-credit scenes. We're going to try to keep spoilers minimal, but be warned, friends, there are spoilers for this movie in this video. I mean, it is called Ending Explained, so you clicked it. The final scene of the film features Hellboy, Alice Monaghan, and Ben Diamo 6 months later working as a team for the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense, investigating something called the ON Society that's got some serious Illuminati vibes going on. They go around slaughtering everyone at this base until they happen upon a storage facility of sorts. And here's where it gets interesting. They find a glass tube that is filled with water and has a plaque on it that reads something very interesting. Ethio Sapien. Then, a webbed hand from within it hits the glass. Those familiar with the comics or even the previous Del Toro films knows that this means one thing: the introduction to Abe Sapien, who previously in the Del Toro movies was played by iconic monster actor Doug Jones and voiced by David Hyde Pierce, of Frasier fame. In the comics, Abe Sapien's origin is directly connected with the ON Society, meaning it's likely that if there is a sequel to the movie, this Abe will be much more true to the comics than his previous adaptation. Ethio Sapien is the name given to him by the Society as his species designation. His character, also created by Hellboy creator Mike Mignola, first appeared in 1994's Hellboy Seed of Destruction, where his origin tells of him being a Victorian scientist in the 19th century named Langdon Everett Call. Call became involved with the Society, an occult organization, who believes that life and knowledge come from the sea, and are also like super into aquatic gods. He's involved in an arcane ritual with them that turn him into that Ethio Sapien, and the Society seal him in a suspended animation tube in a hidden laboratory beneath a hospital in Washington, D.C. The lab was then abandoned during the American Civil War, and he wasn't found until 1978, with no memory of his previous life. He takes the name Abe after seeing a piece of paper with his species name on the tube, which was dated April 14, 1865. The day of Abraham Lincoln's assassination. Now, in the comics, he is taken to the BPRD for research and also some pretty cruel experimentation until Hellboy steps in, but in this film, the BPRD find him instead of random workers who stumble upon the lab site. So, what does this all mean? Well, if a sequel does happen, Abe is going to likely play a major role in it. Now, this could also mean that perhaps the series may attempt to tackle the Hellboy story arc, Plague of Frogs, in which Abe Sapien ends up discovering his past life after having a vision. Regardless of how it pans out though, based off of the way that Abe has been set up in this scene, we can expect a slightly different version of the character if a sequel were to be made. Now, what about those post-credit scenes? There's two of them that played after the film had finished. Let's start with the mid-credit scene. This one brings us to a cemetery with a drunk Hellboy, with Red mourning the death of Trevor Bruttenholm, his adopted father played by Ian McShane in the film. His grieving is interrupted by the ghost of Lobster Johnson, who is played by Thomas Hayden Church. Lobster appeared earlier in the film during a flashback sequence pertaining to Hellboy's origins, fighting Nazis. So why has Lobster come to visit Red? Well, he comes with a warning. Evil is coming. Hellboy's like, okay cool, and just wants to see the ghost's lobster claw weapon on his glove. This appearance of Lobster's ghost could mean that if a sequel were to happen, it's likely that Lobster may reappear. In the comics he does, and is fully capable of using his claw and shooting guns in battle. Plus, with a star like Thomas Hayden Church, the possibility of the character reappearing is a pretty decent one. Let's move on to that final post-credit scene. This one gives us more of a glimpse as to what this inevitable incoming evil could be. It opens with Baba Yaga making a deal with someone off-screen to take down Hellboy. Now, earlier in the film itself, we were introduced to the witch character, who has an obsession with getting Hellboy's eye. The deal she strikes with this unseen character is for them to get Hellboy's eye, and in exchange, she will let them die. So what on earth or hell does that mean? Well, that implies that the character she's speaking to is someone who can't die. And if we're going off of the comics here, the chances are that it's likely Koschei the Deathless that she's speaking to. The Deathless is an immortal mercenary who Baba Yaga actually uses in the comics to attempt to assassinate Hellboy in the Darkness Falls story arc. He's a merc who has been killed and revived, and because of this, his soul has been separated from his body. His soul is also hidden inside a goat, which is pretty darn hilarious. Baba Yaga tells him in the comics that she's hidden the goat, hence why he's willing to go after Red for her. So what does all of that mean? Well, it's incredibly likely that the Deathless will be making an appearance in the sequel, but it's probably fair to assume that he won't be the main antagonist of the movie. So there we have it, friends. What do you guys all think? What were your thoughts on the Hellboy film? If a sequel does happen, which comics do you think they'll adapt, considering Mike Mignola has been playing a much larger role with this reboot soon-to-be series? And how do you think this Abe will fare in comparison to Doug Jones and Del Toro's previous take on the character? Share all of your thoughts with us in those comments below. If you dug this video, spread the love, hit that like button, share it with a friend, and be sure to subscribe to Top 10 Nerd for all of your comic book film updates, explanations, fan theories, and much more. In the meantime though, thanks for watching, friends. I'll catch you all in the next video.